And welcome, sports fans, to today's Sports Roundtable here on Saturday, as we are now a couple weeks into the high school basketball season and also getting into the other winter sports, as well as we pretty much made that full transition into the winter sports schedule as all the fall sports are behind us, heading into basketball now, and really exciting to get started here on YHC with high school basketball for the past 2 weeks, and a lot more to come. And hopefully you'll tune in for the rest of the way here on YHC and YHCTV.com. And we're going to go over some highlights here momentarily, the games we've done over the last few evenings, but we've also got one more for this evening, which we'll talk about in a moment. But it's been a busy week for us here already with the high school basketball schedule. And it's a big week. The SEMO Conference Tournament wrapped up last night. We're going to talk about that. And also we've had quite a few games to recap here this week. And heading into the last 2 weeks of the month, as the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament will be getting underway in a couple weeks, and we'll be looking forward to those seeds. I think those are going to be released this weekend. So it's going to be fun to see what happens come that Bloomfield Christmas Tournament later on this month, the day after Christmas. And we're going to carry that, as always, here on YHC and online at YHCTV.com. And let's take a look at some of the games from last night, Friday night, and a game that we brought live to you last night. Malden defeated Campbell 66-28. Final score from Malden last night, that Boot Hill Conference matchup. And just basically a clash of two different teams. Malden, a very senior-laden team this year. They've got about 7 seniors on the roster this year, and they pretty much all play as well. So very good upper-class team out of Malden this year. Campbell graduated probably 7 seniors last year as they come away with second place in the district Class 2 District 1 tournament last year to Hayti, and graduate a lot of seniors, so quite a few underclassmen, playing a few freshmen and sophomores up at the varsity level. So a very young team out of the Camels this year. So Malden just really controlled that game last night, and we've got some highlights to show from the game last night. Take a look from Malden last night. So let's take a look. And last night, no problem for the Green Wave in that victory and that Boot Hill Conference matchup last night. This team to look out for. Malden really, man, when you got 7 seniors that are on the court a lot, that's a lot of experience on the floor. A lot of good ball handlers on this team. When you've got Malcolm McBride, Deshaun Butler, and Tario Reed out front, very quick, handle the ball well, and can shoot the ball pretty well too. And Chance Booker in there is a really nice outside shooter, can even get into the lane and score and rebound well. And Rick Annisser, really nice addition this year, and really good around the basket, very physical, and a pretty good team to look out for, especially come to the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament in the short term, but also in the long term. By the end of the year, conference could be very interesting. Green Wave certainly be one of the top teams in the conference this season. And take a look at the game we did Thursday night. Neelyville and Clarkton. Neelyville-Clarkton and Neelyville won 87-81 over the Clarkton Reindeer, and Clarkton got out to a hot start. Neelyville come back through most of the second and third quarters, and Clarkton made another run late, but come up short in the end. But the last game we did Thursday night, we brought live to you here on YHC, and taking a look at a highlight from that game from Thursday. Taking a look. Neelyville Tigers in the end held off the Reindeer, and Clarkton, they really struggled on early on in the season, but have really looked well in that game, and they might be able to do something in the Tri-County Conference, as it looks like it's pretty wide open at this point. Risco bringing back probably the strongest team, and they haven't played really good out of the gate. They'll certainly probably play better as the season progresses, but Clarkton could make some noise in that Tri-County Conference this year. Played a pretty good game there Thursday night against the Neelyville Tigers. And actually, Clarkton Risco will be playing Monday night to kick off the Clarkton Holiday Tournament. I believe Risco's got the top seed and Clarkton's got the 8th seed. So that'll be a first-round matchup there in that Clarkton Holiday Tournament Monday afternoon. I think that's an early start, a 4 o'clock start there at Clarkton for that Holiday Tournament in Clarkton. So we'll see what happens there as they match up for the first time this season. And taking a look at some other games from last night in the area for Friday. Sikeston over Notre Dame in the SEMO Conference Tournament Championship. Sikeston come away with their, I don't know how many straight, they've only won about 3 straight conference tournaments there, but Sikeston rolling over Notre Dame. Notre Dame came in as the 6th seed, knocked off Dexter, the 7th seed in the semifinals. So Sikeston cruising to that victory, 72-39. Problem for the Bulldogs in that conference tournament championship last night. Also, Cape Central over Dexter, 54-39 in the 3rd place game of that tournament. Cape Central the 4th seed, Dexter the 7th seed. And Dexter got a nice first-round victory over Charleston, get into the winner's bracket, and finish 4th place in the SEMO Conference Tournament last night. In the consolation game, it was Charleston defeating Paul Bluff 54-40. So Charleston, the 2 seed, effectively finishes with the 5th place in the consolation bracket. Charleston winning that consolation game over Poplar Bluff last night. And taking a look at some other games, regular season games from the area. Bloomfield over Richland, 64-35 in the Stoddard County Conference. And we actually did Bloomfield earlier in the week, Tuesday night. We did Bloomfield and Kelly, and Bloomfield defeated Kelly soundly Tuesday night. And got a nice conference win over Richland last night. And in other games, we have East Carter County over Van Buren over in the Ozark Foothills Conference, 69-62. Also, Leopold over Bell City, 90-64. Oran over Scott City, 64-48. Perryville over Fredericktown, 67-40. Twin Rivers over Arcadia Valley, 66-52. Chaffee over Woodland, 69-47. In girls basketball, over in the Poplar Bluff tournament they're having, Dexter over Oxford, Mississippi, 48-31. Arkansas over Twin Rivers, 79-51. Pine Grove, Mississippi over Poplar Bluff, 49-38. And Hoxie, Arkansas over Oran, 76-68. And speaking of the games that we brought to you over the last few, actually last night, Malden, you can watch that replay today coming up at a little after 1 o'clock. Actually, it's 12:30. It's going to be a little after 1 o'clock when we show that, and you can catch it later on tonight at 6 p.m. as well. And right after that replay at 6, we're going to bring you a live game here Saturday evening, Gideon versus Portageville. And it'll be live tonight at 7:30, might be closer to 8 o'clock, but scheduled to start at 7:30, may be closer to 8 o'clock tonight here on Channel 21 on your New Wave Cable and YHCTV.com, and probably even a Facebook Live as well. And they're going to be honoring Jim Bidewell this evening. Jim Bidewell is going to be honored for tonight's game. Former Portageville basketball coach, winning 5 state championships. The first 4 were right in a row, 91, 92, 93, 94, and the last one coming in 2009, not too long ago. Shoot, it's 8 years ago, but yeah, not that long ago, that last one. Jim Bidewell winning the state championship there in 2009, along with the 4 there in the early 90s. I believe they're going to be naming the gym after him there in Portageville. as he started to wrap up his career in education. He's been, I believe, assistant principal there and doing some athletic director work. So I think he's going to be wrapping up his career in education pretty soon, if not this year. So nice gesture by the Porterville schools and effort to name the gym after him, as he's long been known for as the Porterville basketball coach through the 90s and 2000s, winning 5 state championships there in Porterville. So we'll be looking forward to that later on tonight, bringing it right to you right here on YHC for Gideon and Porterville later on this evening. And we're going to first break and be back with some local headlines as well as some state rankings and the high school basketball scene. We'll be back with that coming up.
At Ag Explore, we're farmers too. So we know that farming's never been a 9-to-5 job. Just like the farmer, we work overtime to bring you what it takes. Solutions like InZone help you retain 47% more nitrogen with an overall average increase of 12 bushels per acre. Imagine what InZone can do for you. Ag Explore.
At New Wave, we're proud to call the communities we serve our home. Our customers tell us having a local office is important to them. That's why we maintain dozens of local offices and employ over 500 skilled employees, all focused on delivering the best customer experience. We don't just connect communities, we connect to our communities, helping support the schools, organizations, and events that support all of us. Thank you for choosing Wave Communications, your local provider of internet, TV, and phone.
And welcome back, and taking a look at that SEMO Conference Tournament again as Sikeston cruises to that SEMO Conference title once again this year over Notre Dame. And I'll tell you, it was an interesting tournament this year, seeing quite a few teams that were ranked towards the bottom, such as Notre Dame as the 6th seed. 6th seed Notre Dame was in the conference championship tournament championship this year, taking on Sikeston. We actually saw that a couple of years ago where New Madrid was seated closer to the bottom of the tournament, wrongly seated, I would say, because they made it to the Final Four that year and finished 3rd place. But yeah, they were I think they were around the 6th seed and won the whole thing there in Sikeston back in 2015, I believe it was. And this year's Notre Dame, the 6th seed, defeated Dexter, the 7th seed, in the semifinals, where Charleston got knocked off in the first round by Dexter, and Dexter and Notre Dame faced off in the semifinals where Notre Dame advanced. But it really wasn't close, 72-39 final score, as Sikeston just really rolled through that conference tournament. Did get a little test from Cape Central, who really shot the lights out in the semifinals, made it a close game. It was a single-digit game final there with Sikeston and Cape Central. But Sikeston moves on. I tell you, it's going to be tough to knock off these Sikeston Bulldogs this year. They got these Owens twins that moved in that are really good. One's a really good shooter. One's a really good kind of in-between player. You know, plays inside and can really play well at that post and underneath. And those 2 kids moved in. Plus, you got Fred Thatch and Kevin Jones coming back, and Trey Jenkins, tall 6'6", 6'7" kid right there in the middle. And a deep bench to work from. Peyton Howard shooting the 3-pointer on the perimeter. I believe the Mills kid does well. You know, big kid that comes in, rebounds, defends well, and they get after you in the full court with a press, turnover, layup. I mean, it's going to be tough for anyone around here to take on the Sikeston Bulldogs. But I tell you, Charleston's really stepped up this year. You know, they've taken some early steps. This SEMO Conference. It's pretty, you know, it is, you know, other than, you know, Sikeston kind of being head of his shoulders against above everyone else, I think it's a pretty competitive conference, as it's always been. There with Cape Central playing pretty well in the semis. Poplar Bluff's got 2 of some of the better players in the conference, with Mercedes Leach and Dominique Hardiman. Also some other kids moving up this year, pretty good for the Mules. Notre Dame looking like they're pretty big, bringing back a pretty good squad as well. And Dexter's really stepped it up over the last couple of years. Got some nice conference wins last year. Played Sikeston tough in the district semifinals last year, and competing at a pretty good level in the conference so far this year. So pretty strong conference once again this year in the SEMO Conference. Just that Sikeston kind of makes the conference look weaker than it really is, just with how good they are. This might be the best team they've had. I know Coach Hallfield's spoke well about his team this year and likes what they have, which he certainly should. They play about 10 kids in and out. They're always going to be fresh. That's for sure. They're always going to get a fresh 5 on the court for the Bulldogs, and they might have a chance to win that state title this year. It'll be interesting, but very good conference once again this year in the SEMO Conference, as always is. Kind of like the SEC in college football for high school basketball here in Missouri. And moving on, take a look at some state rankings for this week, coming into this week. So these records won't reflect this week's games, since Class 1, the state rankings, Walnut Grove at number 1 at 2-2 coming into the week. Advance up to number 2. 3, North Andrew. 4, Greenfield. 5, Winston. 6, North County. 7, Jamestown. 8, Dora, 9, Lesterville, and 10, Lynn County. So really only one local team there in the top 10. Advance up there at number 2. Risco was there in the mix. I believe they were at number 7 or 8, if I'm not mistaken. But they've suffered a few early losses, so they move out of the top 10. Wouldn't be surprised if we see them there again. But, still Advance. Really tough, finishing runner-up in Class 1 last year. And they've still got some kids coming back from that, or 2 kids with notable playing time last year in Vermillion, Armani Vermillion, and Hood. Can't remember his first name, but Hood, one of the guards there as well. And going to be a team to be reckoned with once again this year in the Advance Hornets. And in Class 2, Harrisburg at number 1, 2, Hartville, 3, Sacred Heart, 4, the Oran Eagles, defending Class 2 state champions. Looking really good once again early on, already winning their invitational tournament a couple weeks ago, and looking really good so far this year. 5, Mid-Buchanan, 6, Thayer, 7, Eugene, 8, Fayette, 9, New Bloomfield, and 10, Milan. And moving on to Class 3, Whitfield on top at number 1, 2, Cardinal Ritter, 3, Mountain Grove, 4, Clark County, 5, Saxony Lutheran, 6, Father Tolton out of Columbia, 7, Hogan Prep, 8, Northwest Academy, 9, Charleston, and 10, Lutheran North. And Charleston was up top of the rankings, closer to the top, suffered a couple losses over the last few weeks of Vashon and Dexter, and even Notre Dame. Actually, they got 3 losses on the year, including Notre Dame and Dexter. So, Charleston moving down. They might move out of that top 10 poll for next week due to some losses this week, due to the loss this week to Dexter. So we'll see what happens there, but Charleston probably going to be there in the mix later on in the year for sure. They're in the state rankings for Class 3. And take a look at Class 4. Vashon remains at number 1. St. Mary's does leapfrog Sikeston for number 2. And I'll tell you, these 3 teams, Vashon, St. Mary's, and Sikeston, boys, are going to be fun to see what happens towards the end of the year. Vashon defeated St. Mary's in overtime of their district championship last year. I believe it was a district championship. Might have been the sectional round. Might be wrong on that. But either way, they play, win in overtime. Vashon edged St. Mary's, and St. Mary's pretty much brings back their whole team from last year. Vashon did graduate a few players, and some actually, some that did return did transfer, but they actually had some transfer into Vashon. So quite a new roster there this year with Vashon, but still certainly capable of making another run, but certainly headed up by Mario McKinney, one of the top guards, if not the top guard in the state. Looking really good for Vashon early on. But St. Mary's, even though they're at the number 2 spot, they might be a stronger team coming into this year just because they've got the continuity with their team coming back, and Vashon's kind of a little bit of a turnover in their roster with the transfers, but we'll see what happens there later on in the year if they match up again. But Sikeston was at number 2. They moved down to number 3, probably due to the fact that St. Mary's has played some games early on, as they were 6-0 coming into the week, and Sikeston not playing as many games, moving down to number 3. 4, Jeff City Helias. 5, Parkway Central. 7, Raytown South. 8, Hillsboro. 9, Center. And 10, Webb City. And we didn't see a 6th ranking in there. That's why we skipped the number 6 ranking. Not sure if that was just left out or what, but didn't get a 6th ranking in that Class 4. But you see there, Hillsboro and Sikeston faced off in the sectional round last year. It was a pretty good game. So It's going to be a very interesting Class 4 state tournament this year, and even the district tournament. So, some very good teams in Class 4 this year. It's going to be fun to watch come the end of the year in the state tournament. And in Class 5, no local teams in this one, but Webster Groves at number 1, 2 Lee Summit West, 3 Chaminade, 4 Nixa, 5 Rockbridge, 6 Hazelwood Central, 7 Christian Brothers College, 8 Liberty, 9 Park Hill South, and 10 Oak Park with the Class 5 state rankings this week. So another strong year in high school basketball, very well represented in the state rankings as always here in Southeast Missouri. And I'd say we thought we'd see some teams kind of I would say take a step back from last year's team. Oran brings back quite a bit from last year, so they're going to be certainly in contention there. Advance, well, they lost quite a few players from last year's team, but bringing back Vermillion, probably arguably their best player from last year, along with Hood. They're going to be strong coming back as they've shown already. And I'll tell you, some teams have really impressed early on this year. Malden really looks good. I'll tell you, having 7 seniors on the roster certainly helps with the experience that they've got. They're looking really good, going to be playing in Class 3. And I tell you, a team to look out for, East Prairie. Man, they've been dominating early on. 20-point victories over New Madrid and Portageville, and got an even bigger win over North Pemiscot earlier in the week. I think that might have been last night. So I'll tell you, this East Prairie team, Casey Knight out there, looking really good early on, and that's a team that probably didn't expect this year to really make the waves, especially early on in the season. And they'll be playing the Christmas tournament, so that makes another dynamic, interesting in the tournament with East Prairie. So we're seeing some teams kind of make some noise early on that we otherwise wouldn't have expected. So that's always good for the season. It's good to see the teams that we didn't expect as much from being competitive. That just makes every Tuesday and Friday nights all that more interesting with more competitive games, and especially in the conferences. So it's been a pleasure seeing some of these teams playing pretty well early on. So we'll see how it develops and goes going forward in the high school basketball scene. And before we go today, let's take a look at I know college football is starting to ramp up its bowl season coming up, but of course, the college football playoffs going to have Clemson as the number 1 seed, as the defending national champions. They'll be taking on 4th-seeded Alabama, a rematch of the national championship the last 2 years. So we'll kind of see the rubber match here in the semifinal on New Year's Day. And on the other side, Oklahoma, who will more than likely have the Heisman winner, Baker Mayfield, quarterback, taking on 3rd-seeded Georgia in that other semifinal game. And we'll be looking forward to those semifinal games coming up on New Year's Day in college football. And take a look at the other bowl games in the Fiesta Bowl. Washington taking on Penn State. That'll be on December 30th at University of Phoenix Stadium. In the Peach Bowl, we've got Central Florida taking on Auburn on New Year's Day at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. In the Orange Bowl, Miami taking on Wisconsin on the 30th at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. And in the Cotton Bowl, we've got USC taking on Ohio State. That'll be on the 29th at AT&T Stadium in Dallas. So those are your college football matchups for the bowl season. I know Arkansas State's playing a bowl game. That's exciting. I think they're 6 or 7 straight years now. I think it's 7 straight years in a bowl game. It's been a great run for the East State Red Wolves, so we'll be looking forward to them playing in their bowl later on in the bowl season. And quite a coaching frenzy, certainly in the college football scene. Quite a few hires taking place this past week. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, earlier or last week, Jimbo Fisher going to Texas A&M from Florida State. Jeremy Pruitt, defensive coordinator for the Alabama Crimson Tide, goes and takes the Tennessee head coaching job. There's quite a few. It might be tough to remember them all. I can't remember. TCU's coach is going to Arkansas. I can't remember his name. But, Arkansas getting their hire with TCU's head coach. So quite a bit of musical chairs going on in the coaching scene in college football. So even making news when there's nothing going on. Certainly with the coaching changes here in the last few weeks. So we'll be getting underway with the bowl season. I think that starts this week, I believe. So be getting ready for that. And college basketball well underway as well. And we'll see what happens all there. And that's pretty much all we got for you for today. But we do want to remind you we got live high school basketball for you this evening, Gideon and Portageville. You can watch live here on Channel 21 on New Wave Cable, YHCTV.com, and we intend to bring a Facebook Live as well if we can do so down in Portageville tonight. And again, that'll be a 7:30 o'clock start. They're going to have in between J and varsity a recognition of Jim Bidewell. Jim Bidewell recognized, and I believe the gym's going to be named after him tonight for his time and certainly his record at Portageville, winning 5 state championships. And not only that, but the footprint he's got there in Portageville will be everlasting. It'll last forever. The time he's had there, and the lives he's certainly affected there at Portageville. And we'll be looking forward to that tonight. That'll be the game, so it might be closer to an 8 o'clock start night from Portageville. But we're looking forward to that down in Portageville tonight, getting in Portageville live right here on YC. So look forward to that, and looking forward to bringing it to you here on 21 this evening. And that's all we got for you today, and we appreciate you for tuning in as always. We're just seeing you before the game tonight here Saturday night, and we'll look forward to the game this weekend at Malden Tuesday night. And I can't remember, we've got